All right, character assassination. Hello, Billiam. I'm a freshman in the university over in England, and everything is good in the world apart from one small annoyance. I had just got in from a night on the town, and it's 7 a.m. I experienced something that I feel I need to ask you about, and I'd love the advice you give. So feel you're the best person to ask. All right, granted you're hammered and you're writing this at 7 in the morning. Okay. I've been at the university for 5 days, and everyone is getting on really well. I have been the guy that cracks the jokes and makes sure everyone is included and makes sure everyone comes out to drink every night. This evening, a new guy moved into my flat, and immediately the group dynamic changed. He seemed to be very sure of himself, and it felt as though he believed he was better than us. He constantly made remarks about the lack of girls in the group and had a general air of complacency. To put a long story short, he tried to humiliate me in front of everyone. He made me feel little by making a big deal out of a remark I made sarcastically. I said that I had a cousin who was quite attractive. I was clearly joking, but he made it his mission to say it was incestuous, and because I'm from Wales, he suggested that I have sexual intercourse with sheep. Oh, you guys are the ones who get that out there. A well-known Welsh stereotype, but is potentially true, he wrote with a little smiley wink face. I sensed that the entire room knew I was joking and found it strange that he made such a big deal out of it, but due to his highly confident, almost cocky personality, they were scared to argue with. Well, you got to nip that in the butt. Yeah, you got to step to that guy immediately. Be like, dude, it's just a joke. Why do you keep talking about it? Do you secretly want to fuck a sheep? So you're trying to put it on me because your dick gets a little hard as you're talking about it? You fucking weirdo. Just you got to come at that guy. You know, you don't have to do like, dude, if you say that again, I'll fucking knock your teeth down your fucking throat. You don't have to go there yet. You don't have to. All right. Anyways, let's move on here. I sensed the entire room, but blah 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 blah. I explained myself for several minutes, and he continued to make a big deal out of nothing. And I feel most of the room agreed with me. Yeah, you were giving him like to a guy like that. That's a sign of weakness. For you to keep explaining. Where he goes, nah, I think you want to fuck a sheep. No, it was a joke. No, I was just, I thought you said you were all right, Spider. You're becoming Spider here. You can't do that. I felt like the best course of action was to punch him as hard as I could in the face. All right. I like that. Good move. I resisted the urge to punch him, and I removed myself from the situation. And as I have a feeling that the best way to deal with shitty people is to avoid them. Well, it depends on. Well, if avoiding him means not hanging out with the friends that you're making, you have to address it. Now, you don't need to punch him in the face, though. I'm just joking. The problem was that most of the room came with me as they felt I was in the right, thus isolating him on his first night. This is not what I wanted to happen. Dude, you got to stop being a people pleaser. He's being a cunt, and he needs to sit there and think about it. He said, this is not what I wanted to happen, as the first night in university is the hardest, and I didn't want to be the cause of his lonesomeness, even though it was somewhat self-inflicted. It was totally self-inflicted, sir. He goes, this made him dislike me more. And as we left to go out drinking in the nightclubs, he came up to me and looked me in the eyes and said, I hate you. Yeah, this guy's just an insecure cunt. He goes, I didn't know how to handle it, as I was not set out to make enemies, and he seemed to want to hate me. And I just say, all right, well, cool, all right. Well, we got that over quick. Enjoy your time at the university. We don't have to be friends. Have a nice evening. He goes, I feel like I've tried to be nice, but he has beef with me. Don't be nice to this guy. Fuck this guy. He goes, my question for you is, would you have left the room when the guy tried to humiliate you, or would punching him be the best option? All right, at this age, I wouldn't have left the room, and I would have given him shit, and I wouldn't have punched him in the face. At your age, I probably would have let him roll all over me, bully me, and then would have, for some reason, become friends with him and let him treat me like shit for the next 5 years of my fucking life. That's what I would have done at your age. So, that's basically what... You shouldn't avoid this guy. You shouldn't take any shit from this guy. This guy has got a lot of issues. He probably has a bad father or home situation, and he's basically in the beginnings of going out into the world and taking out his childhood on other people. So the only way he can do that to you is if you allow him to. You don't need to be friends with someone like that, but what you do need to do is you need to draw a line, and that guy has to respect the fact that he can't get out of line with you. All right? So if he comes up and says, I hate you, just be like, hey, there's nothing I can do about that. Have a nice evening. And he said, no, I really fucking hate you. And just be like, listen, dude, do you have a problem? Is there something, if you're going to do something, do what the fuck you feel you need to do, or get the fuck out of my face. And just leave it at that, because he's not going to throw a punch. And if he comes up and says, I hate you, he sounds like a fucking 7th grader. And it sounds like you have it in you to punch somebody in the face. And if you already know that about yourself, you don't have to prove it again. So don't go with violence, man. That's stupid advice. Just when he comes up and says, I hate you, just be like, yeah, all right. There's nothing I can do about it. It's unfortunate. I wish it wouldn't happen. I don't know what he wants out of you. But the biggest thing that I've gotten from this, because I can't tell you what to do, because I'd have to know a lot more about the situation as to how to handle that guy. But the biggest thing I got out of this is your need to try and make things better and be a people pleaser with someone who doesn't deserve that. You sound like a really nice guy, all right? And you know what happens to nice guys? They attract assholes, because people who don't tolerate assholes, they can't get in there. So some of the biggest cunts in the world hang out with some of the nicest fucking people in the world who don't know how to stick up for themselves in certain situations. So this is what I've told a couple people in my life. Make somebody earn how nice a person you are. Don't just be giving it away and just being nice to everybody. This guy hasn't earned it, so fuck him. All right? Fuck that guy. Don't take any shit from him, but don't allow that guy to make you mad. Yeah, and then you throw a punch, and then you got issues at school because this guy's a cunt. He had a bad dad. Fuck that. Fuck that. If he comes up and says he hates you again, just be like, dude, I got it. You already said that. I understand you don't like me. So get out of my face and get on with not liking me. All right? If you really didn't like me, you wouldn't be coming up to me. So why don't you prove to me how much you don't like me? Don't listen to what I say. Everything I say, it always escalates into a fucking rolling around on the floor kind of thing. I hope something in there helped you. All right, Hiroshima and documentary to check out. Dear Billy Von Reddington. Bill, I am an American living in Hiroshima teaching English. It's a great gig where I get to meet a lot of the locals and teach them how to pronounce things the way we do. My dad was in the Army, so I grew up learning a lot about American history, especially military history, since it was such a big part of our lives being in a military family and all. I'm a huge fan, blah, 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 he writes, and I am happy to hear that you are getting into World War history in a big way. The last few weeks of the MM podcasts have almost been weird as you are discovering a lot of the same things I did about our past and about how the modern world came to be. When I was a kid, World War II aviation, especially in the Pacific, had a profound effect on me. And the book Flyboys was the first time I ever read about shit going down in the Philippines and how we got all these overseas territories in Puerto Rico and Guam and all of that. Before that, I was just brought into believing that we were the good guys and everyone else was to blame for everything wrong in the world. Also, I have to agree with the last person who wrote in that the Dan Carlin podcast, Ghost of the Ostfront, I got to listen to that. Ostfront. O-S-T-F-R-O-N-T, everybody. Dan Carlin. Spelled the same as George Carlin. C-A-R-L-I-N. Ghosts of the Ostfront. O-S-T-F-R-O-N-T. All one word. From the hardcore history was life-changing. The fucking Russians lost between 20 and 40 million people, and many of those were civilians. We lost 500,000 in the whole war. There is a saying that World War II was won with British intelligence, American steel, and Russian blood. Wow, man. Jesus Christ, that's a sacrifice and a half, huh? Understatement of the year. I got to listen to that. This could not be more true, he's saying about that expression. After the war, when we went to rebuilding Western Europe and the Russians basically occupied everything to make sure this shit never happened again. Let me read that sentence in a better way. After the war, we went to rebuilding Western Europe and the Russians basically occupied everything to make sure that this shit never happened again. All right. Now the Cold War, from the Russian side, makes total sense to me, and I think it will to you after you listen to the podcast. And also, I know you mentioned that you hate ancient shit before cowboys and Indians, but you have to check out the podcast also from Dan Carlin called Death Throes of the Roman Republic. Oh, dude, listen, if someone's going to tell me about it, I can listen to anything, but to sit down and read it, my brain doesn't work like that. It just goes, why don't we go get a beer, man? Why are we reading all this heavy stuff, man? Ancient Rome, you see, used to be a democracy before the Roman Empire, and it faced a lot of the same problems. Jesus Christ, are we actually learning things here? My God. All right, stay with me, people. I got a little more to read here. Ancient Rome used to be a democracy before it became a Roman Empire, and it faced a lot of the same problems we face today before it ultimately became an empire rather than a democracy. Oh, Jesus, that sounds familiar. You see, there were two groups in ancient Rome that basically ran shit. The publicanes, I hope I said that right, who were rich and conservative, and the populists who sought power through gaining the support of the poor. Oh, my God. So basically, this is their Fox News and CNN. And ultimately, it was this struggle that led to the imperial Rome. Check it out. Last one here. You need to check out Fog of War. It's a documentary free on YouTube that won the Oscar back in 2004, I think. It's about Robert S. McNamara, who was most famous for being Secretary of Defense during the Cuban Missile Crisis in Vietnam. Before all that, he was a statistician in World War II. He was one of the guys who crunched the numbers to see how much destruction could be caused by daylight bombing in Germany and later in Japan. In this documentary, he points out that by firebombing Japan, we killed more civilians in Tokyo in one night than we did in the bombing of Hiroshima. And that's also amazing when you read that Flyboys book, is you just realize that, you know, because I always learned that we were trying to demonstrate our dominance. That's why we ended up dropping the bombs, and we didn't need to. But, like, when you see how their people were taught that we were devils, had tails, had green blood, and we were going to eat them if we won. And when we approached the civilians, they would throw their babies off cliffs and jump off too. That, I mean, we were going to have to lose way more people. I don't know. There's an argument for both sides. It's nuts. It's crazy.